We're witnessing the complete obliteration of Drake's empire in real time. This isn't just another celebrity controversy. This is a full-scale cultural execution that's got the entire music industry absolutely shook. A judge just weaponized Drake's own discography against him in a 117-page legal massacre, while Kendrick Lamar orchestrates the most savage victory lap in hip-hop history without saying a single word. What began as competitive bars has escalated into armed violence, home invasions, and courtroom confessions that read like a hip-hop thriller. The big three? Obliterated. Drake's legacy? Disintegrating. And the internet? Absolutely losing its mind watching this train wreck unfold. The narrative everyone believed was simple. Drake and Kendrick exchanged subliminals. Not Like Us went viral. Fans picked teams. Standard hip-hop competition. Artistic rivalry. Nothing unusual, right? Dead wrong. What nobody predicted was Drake abandoning every street code in hip-hop to file a massive legal complaint against Universal Music Group, the very corporation that transformed him into a billion-dollar brand. And the judge's response? She didn't just dismiss his case, she systematically demolished his entire artistic identity using his own career catalog as ammunition. The courtroom ruling reads less like legal analysis and more like a hip-hop obituary. This isn't beef anymore. This is a public autopsy of everything Drake built over 15 years. The plot just twisted into something exponentially darker than anyone imagined. Let me expose exactly what transpired inside that courtroom, because this revelation is absolutely insane. Drake's legal battalion filed what hip-hop historians are calling the most desperate document in rap history. 117 pages. For context, that exceeds most doctoral dissertations. The contents? Drake's attorneys are allegedly arguing that Kendrick's Not Like Us transcends artistic expression. They're framing it as weaponized defamation that incited real-world violence. The filing reportedly references specific incidents: an alleged shootout involving Drake's security personnel, multiple attempted break-ins at his Toronto mansion, and threats severe enough to necessitate relocating his son to an undisclosed safe location. Their legal argument? Kendrick's lyrics didn't remain confined to streaming platforms. They allegedly manifested into tangible danger. In virtually any other musical genre, that argument might hold legitimate legal weight. But in hip-hop culture, that reads as violating the most sacred unwritten code. TMZ and every major entertainment outlet immediately detonated this story across all platforms. The leaked court documents circulated online within hours. Fans didn't just consume them, they transformed into forensic investigators. Social media detectives began cross-referencing lawsuit dates with Instagram posts, analyzing security footage from Drake's properties, matching timestamps from Not Like Us release with police incident reports, and dissecting every single bar Kendrick delivered to identify prophetic elements. Here's what elevates this to another stratosphere of crazy. Judge Jeanette Vargas didn't simply dismiss the case, she went nuclear. According to published reports, her ruling essentially stated, "You've spent an entire decade deploying subliminals, calculated sneak disses, and competitive attacks against other artists. You constructed your empire playing this exact game. You don't get to claim victimhood now that someone executed the strategy better than you ever did." The courtroom documents allegedly characterized the entire situation as a vitriolic war of words that Drake voluntarily participated in and often initiated. His own discography, the very catalog that generated his billion-dollar fortune, became Exhibit A, demonstrating why he doesn't deserve legal protection. Every passive-aggressive Instagram caption, every "if you know, you know" lyric, every instance where he hid behind plausible deniability while launching calculated attacks, all of it got dragged into judicial scrutiny and weaponized against him. The internet is calling it poetic justice on a cosmic scale, because Drake spent years perfecting the art of saying everything without explicitly stating anything. He'd release tracks clearly targeting specific individuals, but the bars remained vague enough for plausible deniability if confronted. He mastered that tactical ambiguity, turned it into high art. But now, that entire playbook just became his ultimate downfall. The judge essentially ruled you can't play the antagonist for a decade and then demand protagonist protection when the narrative turns against you. And throughout this legal chaos, Kendrick Lamar is executing the most disrespectful strategy possible in competitive rap: absolute silence. 0 tweets, 0 Instagram stories, 0 interviews, 0 response tracks. Just cold, surgical, devastating quiet. That silence reverberates louder than any diss track could ever achieve. Every day Kendrick doesn't respond becomes its own statement. You're not my competition, you're my content. Now let's dissect the motive, because this is where the entire conspiracy crystallizes and the situation reveals itself as something exponentially more calculated than surface appearances suggested. Superficially, Drake's lawsuit targets defamation and streaming manipulation. He's allegedly accusing Universal Music Group of deploying bot networks to artificially inflate Not Like Us streams and implementing payola strategies to ensure the track dominated every playlist, radio rotation, and algorithm. He's essentially alleging the label sabotaged him to elevate Kendrick. But industry insiders are whispering a radically different narrative. Some believe this lawsuit was never genuinely about one song. It was about leverage. Drake's been locked into a massive contract with UMG for years. We're discussing hundreds of millions of dollars, multi-album commitments, and exclusivity clauses. The type of deal that makes you extraordinarily wealthy, but also transforms you into corporate property. There's a theory circulating that Drake's been seeking an exit strategy from that contract. If he could prove the label actively undermined him, if he could demonstrate they sabotaged his career to benefit a competitor, that might constitute grounds to detonate the entire contractual agreement. It's a chess gambit disguised as an emotional outburst, or at least that's what it was supposed to be. Instead, Drake transformed from appearing like a strategic businessman into appearing like a desperate artist pleading with the empire while the streets mock him relentlessly. The strategy backfired in the most public, most humiliating fashion imaginable. Examine the timeline. Drake evolved from mob ties rhetoric to Your Honor rhetoric, from threatening subliminals to filing legal briefs. That transformation doesn't occur overnight. It happens when someone realizes they're losing control of the narrative and panics. That panic has been accumulating. Because let's maintain authenticity. Drake's cultural dominance has been eroding. Not his commercial metrics, he's still shattering streaming records, but his respect within the culture, that's been deteriorating. People started questioning his authenticity, resurfacing ghostwriting allegations, critiquing how he code switches accents based on trends, and highlighting how he appropriates regional sounds without proper attribution. Kendrick, conversely, operates like a phantom. He doesn't flood algorithms. He doesn't release content weekly. He doesn't chase viral moments. But every time he does emerge, it's a cultural earthquake, a paradigm reset. His legacy compounds exponentially. Projects over a decade old are still achieving platinum certification. He's accumulated Pulitzers, Grammys, and Super Bowl performances. Universities study his work academically. Drake lives on the algorithm. Kendrick lives in the archives. One floods your feed, one rewrites textbooks. When you contrast those approaches, it becomes undeniable which possesses greater longevity. When Not Like Us dropped and immediately became a cultural phenomenon, played at every gathering, every club, every social event, when even people outside hip-hop circles memorized the lyrics, Drake witnessed something terrifying. He watched the culture make a definitive choice, and it wasn't him. That rejection hits differently when you've spent years believing you're invincible, when you've convinced yourself commercial success equals cultural supremacy, when you've constructed an entire identity around being the biggest, most streamed, most dominant force. Suddenly, none of that matters, because Kendrick released one track and reminded everyone what genuine artistry represents, what authentic, undeniable, no ghostwriter, no algorithm, pure skill sounds like. The contrast was devastating. Drake didn't file that lawsuit because of bots or payola. He filed it because he was witnessing his legacy fracture in real time and needed a scapegoat. The label became that target, but the real adversary was always the culture's shifting perception, and you can litigate your way out of that. But here's the dimension that genuinely resonates and transforms this situation from entertainment into a legitimate tragedy unfolding publicly. Buried within that 117-page legal document are details transcending rap competition. Drake's team is allegedly describing genuine fear, authentic trauma. They're referencing a shootout involving his security team, multiple home invasion attempts, and threats severe enough that he felt compelled to relocate his son for safety. Whether those incidents directly correlate to Not Like Us remains speculative, but the fact Drake included them in legal filings reveals something about his psychological state. This transcends reputation protection. According to his presented narrative, this concerns protecting his life, his family, his fundamental sense of security. That's profound, because regardless of your opinion on Drake as an artist, nobody deserves to live in fear. Nobody's child should become collateral damage in adult conflicts. If the claims in that document are factual, we're watching someone genuinely suffering while the internet transforms it into meme culture. But here's the brutal reality. In hip-hop, there's a code. Part of that code dictates handle it through music. You don't involve authorities, you don't file legal motions, you don't transform rap lyrics into courtroom evidence, because the moment you do, you're not a rapper anymore, you've become something else entirely. Drake shattered that code in the most public manner imaginable. The culture's response has been merciless. Instead of sympathy, he's receiving mockery. Instead of solidarity, he's receiving memes. Because in many fans' perspectives, he chose to play a dangerous game for years. He attacked everyone. He constructed an image around being untouchable, connected, powerful. Now that the consequences of that manufactured image are manifesting, he wants institutional protection. The courtroom became his sanctuary, and in hip-hop culture, that represents the ultimate defeat. Once you start explaining yourself to judges instead of responding to competitors, you've already lost. The battle isn't about correctness anymore, it's about who's still standing. And Drake is on his knees filing appeals while Kendrick stands in calculated silence. The situation intensifies exponentially when examining what's transpiring behind the scenes, because this legal battle merely scratches the surface of a much deeper implosion. According to industry rumors and alleged insider testimony, Drake's own infrastructure is fracturing. We're discussing the same advisors, managers, and label executives who orchestrated his global domination. They're reportedly in full crisis mode. Some attorneys allegedly warned him against filing the lawsuit initially. They predicted it would backfire catastrophically, that it would project weakness, that the culture would intensify their attacks. Drake pushed forward anyway. Now those same professionals are executing damage control on a situation deteriorating daily. Reports indicate tense communications between Drake's camp and Universal Music Group, heated discussions about brand erosion, cultural equity devaluation, and irreversible PR toxicity. These aren't merely business terms, they're corporate code for your value is collapsing and we're powerless to stop it. Because reputation in hip-hop isn't solely about sales metrics, it's about respect. Once that's forfeited, recovery is nearly impossible. Drake built his empire on being perceived as the perpetual winner, the strategist always 3 moves ahead, the artist who could absorb any regional sound, any trending aesthetic, and dominate it. This lawsuit shattered that image completely. Now he's perceived as the artist who couldn't withstand pressure, who sought institutional protection, who attempted leveraging corporate power to silence artistic competition. In hip-hop culture, that's a death sentence. Meanwhile, online investigators are having an absolute field day. They're not just analyzing court documents, they're cross-referencing every detail forensically. Fans are dissecting Not Like Us bar by bar, correlating lyrics with real-world events. They're excavating old interviews where Drake discussed having shooters. They're contrasting his tough guy persona against his current legal strategy. The dissonance is brutal. Social media has transformed into a 24/7 roast arena. Every platform overflows with memes, ridicule, and conspiracy theories. TikTok creators are deconstructing the timeline. Twitter witnesses #DrakeIsOverParty trending repeatedly. Instagram comment sections under his posts are ruthless. Even former defenders are distancing themselves. The most devastating element? Kendrick still hasn't uttered a word. He's allowing the situation to self-destruct because that's authentic power. You don't need to continuously prove it. You simply exist while everyone else scrambles. Kendrick dropped Not Like Us, then vanished completely. No follow-up tracks, no victory celebrations, no interviews providing his perspective, just nothing. That silence is strategic, calculated. It's the most disrespectful action possible. Every day he doesn't respond makes Drake appear more desperate. Every new legal filing makes Kendrick appear more unbothered. It's a psychological warfare disguised as indifference. Fans are absorbing every moment. They're not witnessing a standard rap beef, they're watching a masterclass in dismantling someone without speaking. Kendrick transformed Drake into his own worst adversary. All he required was one song and patience for Drake to self-destruct. The culture has rendered its verdict. And it's not Drake. This situation gains additional layers when examining the collateral damage because Drake isn't the sole casualty. The entire Big Three narrative that dominated hip-hop discourse for years is completely annihilated, and the manner of its death is almost poetic. Let's discuss J. Cole, because his role in this saga is absolutely wild. Cole released a diss track targeting Kendrick. It was competent, adequate, but nothing revolutionary. Then he apologized publicly. He removed the track. He essentially declared, "I don't want this confrontation," and retreated from the battlefield entirely. In alternative context, that might be perceived as maturity, someone choosing peace over pointless conflict. But in hip-hop culture, it appeared as surrender. The culture didn't forget. People mocked him relentlessly, called him timid, alleged he feared Kendrick, accused him of destroying rap's competitive spirit. Then, months later, Cole started proclaiming himself the best rapper alive in interviews, as if the beef never occurred, as if he just exited the arena and attempted self-coronation from the parking lot. The cognitive dissonance was stunning. Fans noticed immediately. So now you have Drake drowning in legal documentation, Cole attempting to pretend he's still relevant while everyone remembers his retreat, and Kendrick, he's just existing, not even trying, and somehow that's sufficient to make everyone else appear ridiculous. The Big Three narrative was always unstable, a fan-generated concept attempting to force equality where it didn't exist, because honestly, Kendrick always operated on a different plane. His albums get academically studied. His lyrics get analyzed in scholarly papers. He won a Pulitzer Prize. He performed at the Super Bowl. He collaborates with filmmakers and visual artists. He's not just a rapper, he's a cultural architect. Drake, conversely, is a pop star who raps, and there's nothing wrong with that. Pop stars create incredible music. They dominate charts, they generate moments, but they're not equivalent to artists who push boundaries and redefine genres. This situation exposed that difference in the most brutal manner possible. Cole exists somewhere intermediately, talented, respected, but ultimately forgettable in hip-hop's grand historical narrative. He creates solid albums people enjoy, then forget. He doesn't generate cultural earthquakes. He doesn't shift paradigms. He's just there. When you position all three in the same sentence, it becomes obvious only one deserves inclusion in all-time great conversations. The other two are merely successful artists who happen to exist contemporaneously. That's not hatred, that's reality. This beef revealed the hierarchy that always existed but nobody wanted to acknowledge. Now it's undeniable. Kendrick occupies his own tier. Everyone else scrambles for relevance while he moves in silence. This narrative continues unfolding with implications transcending one legal battle or one rap beef. We're witnessing a fundamental shift in how hip-hop handles conflict and competition. For decades, the code was simple: handle it on wax. You have problems? Make superior music. Destroy them with bars. Let the culture decide the victor. The system functioned because it maintained everything within the art form. Beef drove creativity. Competition pushed artists toward excellence. Fans received incredible music from the process. Drake's decision to pursue litigation threatens transforming all that. Because if his approach becomes normalized, every diss track could potentially become evidence. Every competitive bar could constitute lawsuit grounds. Every battle could conclude in boardrooms instead of recording studios. That would assassinate hip-hop's entire spirit. The broader conversation concerns responsibility and consequences. When you spend years constructing an image around being tough, connected, and untouchable, you can't suddenly claim victim status when that image attracts genuine danger. Drake positioned himself as someone with mob ties, someone who could make calls and have situations handled, someone operating in spaces most people couldn't access. That image sold records. It made him appear powerful and enigmatic. It added edge to his persona, balancing his more emotional, vulnerable tracks. But it also painted a target on his back, because if you're gonna talk like that, people will test you. And when they do, you can't seek legal system protection. That's not how the game operates. Kendrick, by contrast, has always been transparent about his identity. He's an artist, a storyteller, a community voice. He doesn't pretend to be a street figure. He doesn't manufacture a tough guy image. He just creates undeniable music and lets that communicate everything. Because he's always been authentic, nobody can weaponize his persona against him. This situation serves as a warning for anyone in the industry who built their career on manufactured images and borrowed credibility. Eventually, truth surfaces. Eventually, you get tested. When that happens, you better substantiate everything you claimed, because if you can't, the culture will devour you alive. By the time we reach 2026 in this timeline, nobody's asking the old questions anymore. Who's better, Drake or Kendrick? Dead question. Can Drake bounce back? Also dead. Those debates are finished. The culture has progressed. The only question that matters now, when Kendrick finally re-enters the center stage, will it be a cultural reset or an extinction-level event for everyone who thought they were standing beside him? Because the rumors circulating currently are absolutely insane. Fan theories and alleged insider accounts are painting a picture of something massive approaching. People discuss Baby Keem dropping an album strategically positioned between Drake's Iceman project and J. Cole's long-awaited The Fall Off. Supposedly, that Keem album features Kendrick in a manner that renders both other projects irrelevant before they even release. Whispers circulate about a Kendrick verse already recorded. Something calm, something surgical, something that doesn't even sound like a diss but completely dismantles everything Drake represents. A sermon disguised as a song, a metaphor transforming Drake into a cautionary tale rather than a competitor. Whether any of this is factual doesn't even matter, because the internet has already written the prophecy. The culture has already decided what's transpiring, and Drake is powerless to prevent it. Because regardless of how intensely he raps on Iceman, regardless of the production quality, regardless of how many features he stacks, every single bar will be heard through one brutal filter. You took rap lyrics to court. You transformed a diss into a deposition. In this timeline, Drake isn't the hero. He's not even the villain. He's the footnote at the bottom of Kendrick's chapter. He's the example future artists will reference discussing what not to do when losing a battle. He's the cautionary tale about what happens when you confuse commercial success with cultural dominance. And the saddest part? He did it to himself. Stay locked in, because this story is about to get exponentially crazier. More legal developments are dropping. More industry insiders are breaking silence.
more details are surfacing about what's genuinely happening behind closed doors. Reports indicate Kendrick's camp is planning something for 2026 that will completely reshape the conversation. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Can Drake ever recover from this? Was taking the beef to court the biggest mistake of his career? Is Kendrick's silence more powerful than any diss track could ever be? Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a single update, because we're covering every twist, every development, every rumor emerging from this situation. This is history unfolding in real time. This is the moment the entire hip-hop hierarchy got rewritten, and you're witnessing it. I appreciate you rocking with me through this complete breakdown. This is one of the wildest stories in hip-hop history, and it's nowhere near finished. I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe out there, and remember, in this game, your legacy isn't built on streaming numbers. It's built on how the culture remembers you when the numbers fade. And right now, Drake's legacy is being rewritten in real time, and he's holding the pen himself.